call this meeting to order. My name is Katie Nolan. I'm the chair. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll for us, please?
Chair Nolan,
Here.
Vice Chair Lehman,
Here.
Member Treadwell,
Here.
Member Courtney.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting, did we all get a chance to look at the minutes?
I will move to approve the minutes of January 8th, 2025.
Do I hear a second?
And
Second. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Lehman, second by Ms. Courtney.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I just register my general view that these minutes, I've got no reason to question the accuracy. We tried to figure out a way around member comments and public comment to at least summarize them. And I've sat on many public boards, and I still don't understand why our minutes don't tell us anything that anybody said. And I just wanted to raise this again because frankly, if I were to review these minutes later on, I would say, was that the meeting where we talked about X or Y, and we'd have to go back and listen to the tape. The whole purpose of having minutes is to be able to refer to them and figure out what was said, not just what was done. So I just want to register my concern, if not objection. I'm certainly not going to hold up the meeting, but it's holding me up in my own thinking about how public boards.
Thank you, Mr. Treadwell. I do understand your frustration. I will note at the bottom of the second page, we have, for the detailed board discussion, please refer to the recording of this meeting located on the Muni website. So that has been added, thanks to Amy, and it at least tells us where to look, just know something about the meeting other than we were all there.
Right, Madam Chair, between the two meetings today, I just joined a Zoom call with people in 4 different countries where there was an AI note taker, and I could get a transcript and a recording together, and the technology is there now to have a transcript and let us review it, and if somebody wants to revise and extend remarks, you can, and I just would recommend that we look at that. Thank you.
Mr. Treadwell, would you like to take that up under new business?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Getting back to the minutes, we have a motion and a second. Is there any objections? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. We don't believe we have any old business to discuss. Madam Clerk, are there any new business items to add to the agenda?
It's my understanding you just added to discuss summary minutes.
Yes, please. Anything else I should have said?
No.
Thank you. Then I need a motion, please, to amend the agenda to add that item. Mr. Treadwell,
So moved.
a second? A motion by Mr. Treadwell, second by Mr. Lehman. Any objections? Hearing none. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
during today's workshop, we discussed a number of recommendations that we might make above and beyond a set of decisions on approving the count. And if the question of recommendations to the Assembly can be discussed, as item E, I don't plan to take a long time, but I guess we heard several different ideas that I think would be useful to discuss while it's still fresh in our minds. So I would move just not only adoption of the Canvas report, but then the discussion of any comments on the Canvas that we would want to give the city.
Okay, I have a motion. Can you just second, please?
I will second it.
Okay. Is Mr. Treadwell motion? Mr. Lehman second? Any objections to that? All right, then let's do a motion to, on the Canvas. Mr. Treadwell?
Aye.
You need to make the motion.
What is it doing?
Oh, wait a minute, we made the motion.
You just
To
need
do
to ask for unanimous consent on that
I
addition.
did that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So are we back to disclosure?
Oh,
And you wanted
I'm sorry, on disclosures.
disclosures, yes.
Madam Chair, I chair a discussion group which is called the Center Right Coalition. It's an off-the-record discussion. We did have several assembly and school board candidates address that group. I did not involve myself in either the invitations or the choice of invitations for that group. But some of the candidates whose elections will be discussed today spoke to that group, which I normally chair, but I recused myself from any discussion or any action on who was brought before the group.
Thank you. Ms. Courtney?
If that needs disclosing, I helped the Turnagain Community Council and the Spenard Community Council put together a candidate forum for the school district and for the assembly candidates. I did not participate in any discussions with them. Nor did I do any campaigning at all during the season.
Thank you. Mr. Lehman?
I probably had the least involvement in municipal campaigns and activities that I've had in all my years of being a registered voter. It almost was a relief.
Thank you. And for myself, I am the president of HALO, the Hillside Area Home and Landowners Organization. We held our regular candidate forum that we do before every election. This one was for obviously senators, assembly members, and school board candidates. However, I don't write the questions, ask the questions, moderate the forum, or do anything except do an intro. This is who we are. We are non-denominational, yeah, you know what I mean, group, so. Any other questions? Disclosures? Okay, now then,
If it's an issue, I should disclose the fact that one of the candidates is my eye doctor. I have not gone blind, and I didn't do my appointment until after the votes were cast.
thank you. All right, then let's get to the canvas. Where would we like to start? We need a
You
motion.
call on Dean.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Yes, thank you. As part of the disclosures, it's because of our conflict of interest in our ethics code in that section. The process is for each disclosure, the chair can make a determination if there's a substantial financial or personal interest that precludes the person or not, and then that can be appealed to the full commission to override that decision, but the chair can make an initial determination. So I guess I heard 3-4 disclosures. Yeah, and I think that it would be good for the record if the chair makes the determination and the rest of the members could, if you wanted, object, and then the vote whether the person should be recused goes to the body. Does that make sense?
So he wants you to, he's asking you to rule on whether or not,
Oh, I have
based
to.
on their disclosures,
I
they
get it.
have a
I get it now, I
conflict, yeah.
apologize. And I get to rule?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ruling. Thank you, sir. I'm ruling that nobody has a
Conflict?
a conflict of interest.
I'm going to amend my statement to say that, and I don't even remember where they were, but I attended community functions where candidates were present. I did not indicate my support or non-support for any of them, didn't speak to it. I just listened to the candidates, and that's well within my right to do, under municipal code. But I didn't want to suggest that I was totally hands-off. I did seek information so I could be a knowledgeable voter.
Is there a reason why this keeps knocking on?
Because it doesn't hear sound from you.
That pay attention to it. All right.
Okay, so if I could just add, just for everyone, if anybody wanted to object to the ruling of the chair that nobody had a conflict, then now would be the time that you would appeal the decision of the chair. Moving on.
Madam Chair, before you make your ruling, one candidate who represents an area where I do not vote, but own property, and I had a discussion about a pending state decision in that district. And again, no favor was asked, no support was given on either. It was just simply a discussion. There was also a candidate who is an incumbent assembly person who heads an organization that every year has held a reception at my home. And this year the reception was held, I believe it was before the election, but or immediately after the election, but before this meeting happened. And again, we did not discuss politics. We discussed leadership anchorage in the Alaska Humanities Forum. So I just wanted to report that in case anybody says, hey, this guy was at your house.
And just for the record, you said they were not in your district to be voted on?
None of them, those two were not in districts where I vote. And we did not discuss the election issues. We discussed issues of the day.
If there are no issues, then yeah, there's no conflict of interest. And
If I
and if
may-
anybody has a,
Nope.
now I ask if anybody had a problem.
I think if anybody had an objection, they would
They
have
would've
just
done it.
appeal at this point. Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's go to the review of the pending rejected ballots. We need to do these one by one, I'm thinking, because we do have some questions on some of them. So, Madam Clerk, if you could do the first one and let's get through them that way.
Sure. I think one year we did take many up at the same time and
Okay.
left out ones
Let's-
that you wanted to have conversations on. I am happy to do it however you want to
How
do
about
it.
all the zeros? Let's get rid of all the zeros.
So what you're going to do is go to the ones that have numbers and
Yes,
accept the rejection of.
accept the rejection of zero ballots on the
Yeah, Madam Chair, could I just suggest we do it the way the Anchorage Assembly does it?
How's
Which
that?
says, I move approval of the report of the election office, or the clerk, as our report. And that's the consent agenda. If people say they would like to pull
Right.
down number X for something, then they can say that. So I move adoption of the Canvas worksheet as our consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Yeah, I would second.
Commissioner.
And by that,
I'm sorry, Ms. Commissioner Treadwell, I gotta get rid of Commissioner Treadwell as the
Mover,
motion. Commissioner,
Lehman as the second.
what is the second?
then
So, does anyone have items to pull?
no, but I just want to make sure that we understand that it's the revised report. But we were in work session, so then the report that comes from you is probably what?
Revised.
So I can go
So-
through super quickly if we want to just make it super clear on the record. There were 0 for reject code A, 3 for reject code D, 18 for reject code E1, 1 for reject code G, 1 for reject code I, 0 for reject code K, 1 for reject code M, 8 for reject code MOA, 0 for reject code O, 0 for reject code R, 6 for reject code T, 7 for reject code V, 301 for reject code W, 3 for reject code W1, 0 for reject code W2, 3 for reject code X, 0 for reject code XX, 41 for reject code Z, 386 for reject code Z1, that number's changed when cured over the break, 0 for reject code Z2, 0 for reject code 2, 11 for reject code 3, 3 for reject code 9, and 10. Just kidding, 1 for reject code 10, and 0 for reject code 11. And
Okay,
then, yeah, does anybody want to pull
let's
any
go
items?
ahead and pull Commissioner Treadwell. Commissioner Treadwell, do you have any items to pull?
Madam Chair, I would recommend, or I request that we pull reject code 9, reject code 3.
9?
Yeah, reject code 9,
Okay.
the power of attorney, reject code 3, ballot voted by someone other than the voter. I'd like to examine code T and V.
T, Tom?
T is in Tom and V is in Victory. And I think the issues were identified, but I would request those four be pulled down.
All right, Commissioner Courtney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one, category E1.
E1. That's E1. That's correct. Commissioner Lehman?
no, I have no additions to that list.
All right, and for myself, the ones I had questions about were already pulled. Awesome. Which was, yeah, T, all right, so, we've got a motion and
I have a motion to accept the rejection of all of the reject codes except E1, T, V as in Victor, 3, and 9. Is there any objection? Seeing
objections to
and
that?
hearing none, the motion is passed.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so starting at the top then with E1, Echo 1. Do I have a motion to approve the rejection of E1? So we can discuss it.
Madam Clerk, I just have one question about E1.
I need a motion so we can discuss it.
Yeah, so what we need to do is move to accept the rejection of 18 ballots in rejection code E1. And then we can have a second, and then we can discuss the items and amend it if we need.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the rejection of the items in code E1.
A second? A second?
I think he hears you as seconding.
Okay. So
Okay.
a motion is second. All in favor?
So we need to discuss. She has a question.
Okay, let's just, and Commissioner, sorry. Commissioner Courtney, you have a question?
Thank you. Madam Clerk, when we first started today on the worksheet, I had 19 for category E1, and you said 18. Did we lose one in there during the break?
When you were discussing, when you were pulling them out, there was one person who had signed, and then the witness, we could get a little bit, it appeared that the witness and the signer had the same last name. So when we couldn't read the voter's name, we read the witness's last name, and it was the same last name, and it was a signature match, and so we counted that, and it's been pulled from this list.
Thank you so much. That takes care of my only objection for E1.
Okay, so is there any other discussion?
Do we need to motion or
You
vote
have,
on all of them each individually?
nope, now you can just ask for objection.
Okay, so this 18 is going to be fine.
Just ask for objection.
Is there any objection?
Okay. Any other objections on E1? We'll go to T as Tom.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. So we have now approved the objections for E1, so you would need another resolution on T. Is that correct?
Yes. Another motion, yes.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I move that we approve the rejections of...
I think we've already got the motion, so we just need a no objection
I think he's moving on to T.
I'm moving on to T.
to T.
Okay, so
But she hasn't.
to make the record clear, is there any objection to accepting the rejection of 18 in rejection code E1? Seeing and hearing no objections, the motion carries to reject 18 in E1. That brings us to item T.
Thank you. All right, item T. This is the 30-day cutoff. I'm going to speak to that one. It's one of them that I was going to pull. This is the young person who had a voter registration card.
President Trump campaigned on.
I cut you off. Sorry. So it needs the news, right? This is the young man who presented a voter registration card that was achieved by him 32 days prior to, but the paperwork had not caught up yet. And I'm going to call this one a human error.
Okay, I think we need a motion on the floor.
So, can I have a motion on that one, please?
I move we reject 3 of the ballots in number T, except for the voter who appeared with a voter registration card.
And a second?
Could you make that motion be to accept the rejection of 5? I had pulled 2 from voter had registered voter had not registered. And so that ended up leaving the voters not registered as 3 and then increased the voters registered too late to 6. And so if you're pulling that one out and counting it, then it would leave that as 5.
Right. Madam Chair, I revised my motion to approve the rejection of 5 ballots under category T.
I'll second.
Any objections?
Yes. Yes, of those 5, there's one that is a voter who came with a voter registration card, and I would request that we examine this ballot and the circumstances in public and get that on the record.
So we rejected the 5, and so we left that one out. And so let's take care of the 5, and then we can deal with the 1.
Okay, all right, my numbers were doing.
Okay,
So
so-
I have no objection.
No objections. So, and then the 1, you want to,
Yeah,
make a
Madam
motion?
Chair, I move that we approve the 1 remaining ballot in category T.
And a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Courtney. Any objections?
For
Hearing
just-
none.
Yeah, for the sake of discussion, could we please have the circumstances discussed on the record here?
So this particular voter told the vote center worker that they had registered 32 days ago and they had received their voter identification card, but they were not in the system, and so they voted a question ballot. When I looked the voter up in FREMS, the FREMS indicated that the voter was registered on March 12th of 2025. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, Madam Chair, did we learn anything more about where that registration happened or?
There's no phone number or email address to contact the voter, so we were unable to get any additional information.
And does FREMS tell us how the registration happened?
No.
And was, where was the ballot received? Was this described on a telephone call to Cure, or was this described to one of our election officials in terms of the voter card, and was the voter card presented?
It was in person at Chambers. The voter provided their driver's license number as their identifier. They did not present their ID card. Their voter ID card. They used their driver's license number as their identifier.
So how did we know, so did the voter official write down that the person said it was 32 days before and had a voter card, but didn't show the voter card?
Yeah, I think the vote center worker explained what the voter said to them. The voter said to them, I registered 32 days ago and I have my voter ID card, and then the worker said, but not in the system. So it was determined that they needed to vote a question ballot. When I got the ballot at the election center, I was able to find this person in FREMS using their driver's license number and date of birth. And they were registered as of March 12th was the initial date of registration for this voter.
Does the signature collection device have a picture of the voter registration document which the voter would have signed and possibly dated? I'm not being pedantic here. I'm just really trying to see, is there any other evidence that might corroborate what the voter said? That's my question.
No, there's no, the voter registration images are not in FREMS for the municipalities to look at.
Madam Chair, I know you're running the meeting, but I'd be delighted to hear your concerns on this one. My notes from the workshop were that this is one we wanted to try to cure, and of course we couldn't cure it because we had no way to contact that person immediately. But is it still your view that we should approve this ballot or not approve the ballot is my question.
This is the person who had a voter ID card.
Said they have.
They said they had a voter ID card.
I thought they had, wait, that's a whole different ballgame.
This person said that they had a voter ID card. This person told my vote center worker that they registered 32 days ago and had a voter ID card. But what they showed at the vote center was their driver's license number. The number that they put on their question ballot is their driver's license number and their date of birth. Those are the two identifiers provided.
Thank you for clearing that up. That makes a huge difference to me.
I didn't catch it the first time through either. I heard that they had a voter ID card. So I'm going to withdraw my objection to that particular ballot.
Who was the second on
Um,
that one? You're going to withdraw your,
Mead made
I
the
did.
motion and seconded the motion. And so if you don't want to count this, you can just fail the motion and we can
Fail the
move to
motion,
reject.
but that changes us to go back to 6 on the other one.
if
Yeah.
the motion fails.
If- Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, vote me down.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
We're voting on accepting that ballot, and I'm going to suggest a rejection of that ballot.
Okay, so we
So
would
all
want
those
to
in favor, raise your hand
Of
of
accepting
of
it?
accepting it. And all those opposed, raise your hand. There.
failed.
Now we need to go back to that number and change it to 6, correct?
So I would just make another motion to reject the 6th ballot
Okay.
in T.
So moved.
A second
Second,
from Commissioner
second.
Treadwell.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any objection to rejecting the 6th ballot in T? Motion carries. All right,
All right,
on
on
to
V.
the,
Victor. Regarding V. Victor, ballot received too late. We had 7 number of voters. I'll accept a motion to reject or so we can discuss it.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I move that we reject the 7 ballots.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lehman. Discussion?
Could we, I guess I have several questions that I think we want to get on the record. Compared to previous elections, the number of people who came to vote after 8 p.m. was greatly diminished by my memory. So it's interesting. But all 7 of these ballots were rejected at the same drop box, and at least half of them, as I recall, were rejected at 8:01. And what I obviously don't know are the circumstances. If it's a drive-up drop box, and I did use a drive-up drop box, it wasn't easy to roll down a window exactly at the right time and or be closer and so forth. But I didn't use that drop box. I used a different one at the library, I guess. And I guess the question that I used the one at City Hall. And it was weird enough to drive up to, so I parked my car and walked out and dropped in there. But I guess the question is, sometimes if somebody's standing right there, and, you know, it's coming up at 8 o'clock. Can our election worker go and say, here, I'll take them all and put them all in at once? Do we have somebody stand back in the back of the line at 8 o'clock? I mean, it's just, it just seems so close that, and I know the rule is the rule, but, you know, were there any extenuating circumstances?
We're not aware of any extenuating circumstances. Our procedure is that at 8 o'clock, I believe it's at 7:55, they shout like we do in polling places, the election is closing in 5 minutes. Not that that's going to help too many people, but then the cars are in line and a election worker at 8 o'clock goes and stands at the end of the line at 8 o'clock. Who is in line at 8 o'clock? The election worker stands there, and then all of those people are allowed to put their ballots in the box. And then after the last person has put their ballot in the box, they close the box, and then anybody who arrives after that we try to give them a sheet that explains their options, and if they refuse to take the sheet and insist that we take the ballot, we take the ballot and write the time that they received it and they initial it. So we had one at 8:01, two at 8:03, at 8:02, one at 8:02, at 8:03, and one at 8:07.
Any further discussion?
One of the options offered, I'm sure, is you can take it to the post office. It's going to be open for 3 more hours.
We don't tell them which post office. We just tell them that they can take it to the post office.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, the motion is going to be to reject the 7 ballots suggested during the workshop. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion is accepted. All right, our next one is going to be X-ray, voter not registered. There were 3 of those ballots suggested by the worksheet.
Were we pulling that one?
No, nobody objected.
I think we're
Oh,
pulling.
nobody,
This one
I'm
is.
sorry, that X was my
That's okay.
X3.
No worries.
3 and none.
No, it's zebra.
No.
Somebody said Z. Really?
I don't have
Okay.
Z. I didn't write down Z. I wrote
So
3.
the
and
next
then-
one was 3.
Okay.
3, yeah.
Let's try 3 then. Okay,
Madam Chair, I have a motion related to number 3. I move that we reject the 11 ballots and that we refer the 11 ballots to, is it appropriate to refer to the municipal attorney or to the city police?
prosecutor.
The municipal prosecutor,
All right.
and then the municipal prosecutor.
I move that the 11, I move that for ballot category number 3, we reject the 11 ballots and refer the 11 ballots to the municipal prosecutor
And a second?
for investigation, if you add that to the motion, for investigation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Treadwell, a second by Commissioner Lehman to refer, or to reject the 11 ballots as suggested in the work session and refer them to the municipal prosecutor's office.
For investigation. Madam Chair, just in terms of the purpose here,
Mike?
Can you turn your mic on?
yeah, in terms of the purpose here, we noticed that some of them might have been honest mistakes, some of them might not have been. and we believe it's worthy of investigation. If we're going to have mail-in ballots, we have to guard against people mailing them in for others. And there's these 11 ballots identified by the elections office, at least are worthy of investigation.
Thank you. Other comments? Hearing none. Are there any objections to that motion? Hearing none. that motion-
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're approving a Canvas worksheet, so we are sending a completed Canvas to the Assembly.
Yes.
Is it our recommendation go straight to the municipal prosecutor, or does it go to the Assembly to accept our recommendation and refer it to the municipal prosecutor?
I think your direction was to refer it to the municipal prosecutor. Your motion told my office to refer it to the municipal prosecutor.
Thank you. That's what I hoped would happen. Thank you.
All right, item 9. To reject ballot envelopes.
Actually, Madam Chair, did you get an objection to number 3? No.
No.
Okay, so no objection. So thank you.
Okay, back to 9. Ballot voted by power of attorneys. Need a motion to reject and a second, so we can discuss it.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Discussion?
And Madam Chair, there was one ballot voted by power of attorney that was voted at a vote center. It was witnessed by one of our employees. It was, a notation was made on the envelope, presumably by somebody at the elections office, that the person could not sign her name. The witness saw the witness, it's because she could not sign her name, the person who signed the name said he was power of attorney, but may not have been signing as power of attorney. He may have been signing as the witness, but since there already was a witness. And I would recommend that we accept that ballot because it happened at the election office, and if it happened improperly, that was our fault, not their fault. If the person was unable to sign, and I certainly have known people who could not move their arms at this point, could only might not even be able to move their head to make a mark. And the fact that this happened in an election center, to me, it means that we should count it unless there's some reason why, unless Eric Hill, who's our employee, came back and said, no, they hid all this back in the booth or something like that. I honestly believe the witness was a witness approving that this person was eligible to vote and not able to sign in her circumstance. And therefore, I would recommend that the ballot be counted.
Any other comments on this motion?
So I hear a motion to amend by counting 1 and rejecting 2.
As the maker of the motion, I'd like to revise my motion with the approval of the seconder to read that we reject 2 and accept the 1 that was signed, that was witnessed by the election center employee.
Other comments, Ann?
Yeah, I don't object to that, but I want to make sure we have clear on our record, because we have a statement that says power of attorney signatures will not be counted, and I'm going to just make clear that this is a different circumstance, even though the POA did sign it. It could have been signed differently, just as a witness to an X or a check or some kind of scratch, and that would have accepted it. I think, right? Yeah.
I would just like to note that without really knowing what happened, and so I feel like we are guessing at what happened, and the statute is very clear that no power of attorney may vote a ballot, and I hate to overrule the statute or the municipal code without knowing really what happened. So
If I could add, Dean Gates shared the special needs section of voting, and the voter shall mark the ballot in secret and place the ballot in the secrecy sleeve provided. The voter shall provide the information on the envelope, same as required for voting in person. The voter shall sign the voter declaration on the return envelope in the presence of the representative. If the voter is unable to sign, the voter shall make a mark on the signature line and have the representative and one other witness who is at least 18 years of age sign the return envelope. If a qualified voter's disability precludes the voter from performing any of the requirements that I just read, A through D, the representative selected by the voter may perform those requirements except making the voting decision on the voter's behalf. The person who was assisting this voter marked an X in the vote register at the vote center and wrote on the signature line the voter's name and then by, and then in the line lower wrote their name and then in parentheses POA. And then our vote center worker signed the witness line. And then he has a follow-up. And then he has a follow-up. 2870030, ballot return envelope review standards. Ballots that shall or shall not be counted based on ballot return envelope review. A vote by mail ballot shall not be counted if B, a witness is required. The witness was authorized by law to attest the voter's declaration, failed to properly execute the witness declaration on the envelope, except that the ballot cast in person and accepted by an election official may be counted despite failure of the election official to properly sign and date the witness's declaration. So maybe we could ask Dean for how he interprets all of that.
Well, listening to you describe the circumstances, it sounds like this person, the POA, may properly signed the witness declaration, didn't sign the witness declaration, signed the voter's signature line. So that's improper for the POA as a witness to do so. And so I thought that might be helpful for the situation, except I'm not sure if I understand the facts correctly.
So I can carry it around again. The person who happened to be the POA, but was assisting this voter, marked an X on the vote register, which is in the office. We look at that. The person who is the POA wrote the voter's name on the X line where the voter is supposed to sign. They wrote the person's name and then wrote by, and then they wrote their name and then POA. So I don't know if that means that the voter assistant was signing and they were witnessing, or our vote center worker signed in the witness line.
Madam Clerk, did the POA vote for the person or just sign the person's
We don't.
X?
they went in the vote booth
Either is
together.
allowed.
It was busy in the vote center the time they came in. They didn't see that the husband had signed the register for her. The husband had assisted the voter in the booth. The envelope was already signed when they put it in the box. The vote center worker did tell them that the voter needed to at least make a mark or an X. The voter said she wouldn't be able to do that, which is why the husband signed for her and then as POA. And then Eric said it was so busy he was unable to send them to the chair of the vote center worker. So he made a note on the envelope.
So if I'm to understand the facts, the X wasn't made on the ballot, but it was made on the voter register. On the ballot envelope. It's also true that this was maybe not a vote by mail because it was happening at a vote center. And the law looks at the possibility of a vote center. And it also there was no doubt expressed by the election worker who described the circumstances in both an email and did sign the witness. So it did have two witnesses, which is required in the case of somebody's inability to make an X. So given the circumstances, there was an X made, but on the wrong line. There were two witnesses that is required. And one witness, had that witness not put down POA, we might not even be looking at this except for the fact that the X was missing, because the signature might well have covered. But in all that, I see no evidence of bad faith. I see evidence of the election official not being able to catch the error in time, but essentially attesting to the validity of the voter. So those are my thoughts, but I probably spoke before Dean had a chance to speak, but I just wanted to point out those facts.
Thank you for reviewing the report and circumstances there, but it sounds like the husband said the voter couldn't even make a mark, and the voter wasn't the person that made a mark anywhere. And then during our A1, and it is a ballot return envelope, so it is a vote by mail type of ballot return envelope, correct? And we have our A1 that says the vote by mail ballot should not be counted if the voter failed to properly execute the declaration on the envelope without signature. Then, so if the voter wasn't even able to make the mark, that our code seems to indicate we shouldn't count that. We also have our A2 in the same code section that says the voter declaration, a vote by mail ballot should be counted if the voter declaration is signed with the valid signature, or if the voter is unable to sign the voter's name, the voter marked the signature line, and one other person is properly released the voter's mark. And a mark may be an X. But from what you described, the voter didn't make the mark. So it doesn't fall under A2, it says it may be counted. And it says, however, A1 should not be counted.
So in your previous email, it's special needs voting. And this is specific to a vote.
2873, and I didn't think special needs voting code section was really applicable because that requires representative in the process. But that was more of something you could do an FYI to our commissioners that we do have a process. If a voter is unable to make a mark, there's a process. That process wasn't employed for anything I wrote here.
Dean, what about Municipal Code 28-15-130, assisting a voter at a polling location or vote center? Does that come into play at all in this situation? Where a person, a qualified, otherwise qualified voter may request the assistance of, in this case, a family member, and the requested person shall state upon oath or affirmation before the election official that the person will not vote the ballot for the voter, coerce the voter into voting for a specific candidate, or divulge the votes cast by the voter. The oath or affirmation shall be on form prescribed by the clerk. Does that come into play, that section of the code?
Well, you are signing 28-15-130. You are signing 28-15-130.
That's correct.
In reading this section, there's assistance, but it does say that the person will not vote the ballot for the voter.
We don't know that here.
Also, yeah, exactly. But it also says that the oath or affirmation should be on a form prescribed by the municipal clerk. And I didn't hear of any form that was provided for that kind of assistance. So, I mean, we don't have evidence that this process was used.
Well, hold on a second here. We do have evidence that this woman could speak because Eric reported that she could speak. You're allowed to take somebody into the voting booth with you, whether it's a child or a family member, to help. And this woman did say that she could not operate a pencil. The fact that she could not operate a pencil was clear when the person assisting her husband, signed the X at the for her at the register. And then we actually had a situation where it was an in-person ballot and there were 2 witnesses. So, the presumption of this person, making an effort to vote. I don't know what her condition was, whether she's in a wheelchair or can walk, but obviously if she couldn't write, she was in a very tough position. She made the effort to come to vote. She brought an assistant with her who, in almost every other circumstance except writing a will, a power of attorney is allowed to do that. She did not object to him signing for her. Eric also signed as a witness, saying it was above board. And I guess I would argue that in this case, an election mistake was made because Eric may have signed after they left or something like that. But I've heard no evidence that says that there was anything untoward here, and that if the city did not explain the rules to the voters who don't have the benefit of reading the statute in front of us, I would say that this woman's vote should be counted. So that's the way I look at it. I mean, there's almost 5 different circumstances. Was a statement made that she couldn't operate a pencil? Yes. Was a statement made, whether or not a statement was made, that you had to have 2 people sign it? 2 people signed it, including an election official. Was the woman able to speak? Yes. Did the woman object to anything that was done? No. And for absence of a tick mark that might be so light that you might need a microscope, but in the absence of that, we would reject the ballot. I would vote to reject this ballot had it come in by mail, because it wouldn't have the second witness. But because it happened in a voter center, I would urge it to be approved and I'd have no problem with your report, Madam Clerk, as saying this is one where we had a split vote, but the commission said we could count it or not count it, and would urge the assembly themselves to review it. And you may have more evidence by that time. The only real concern is that the vote count in some election may change by one vote, and people may know who did it. But the point is here is that there's the risk of this not being a valid, the executed vote is very, very small. And so I guess I would say to Ann's point, it followed all the 5 or 6 different circumstances except one, which was a tiny little tick mark, and possibly 2, in that the person wrote POA next to an appropriate signature to put on there when the person cannot make a mark.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other points of discussion? Then, Madam Clerk, we call for a voice vote on this, please.
Sure. Member Lehman?
Yes.
Member Courtney?
No.
Member Treadwell?
Yes.
Member Nolan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. And I believe that is our very last discussion item. So what I would like now is a motion to adopt the election canvass report for the regular municipal election of April 1st, 2025 as amended.
Nope, I don't think you need to do an amendment. We have accomplished everything. We just need a little bit of a break to go plug these numbers into your form so that you can sign them.
So you wanted that before the motion.
Liz can go do that.
All right,
She
she'll take
can
a
read
5-minute
my
break.
scratch, and
Thank
then you guys can talk about the summary minutes and your other items that you added to the agenda. I'll put this in the
Then, other comments. We wanted to discuss the minutes. Do we still have a note taker? Yes.
Want to do that?
Let's do that then.
Are you going to stay with us?
Yeah.
Awesome. We have an item D, discussion of the minutes. Commissioner Treadwell, would you like to lead that discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I apologize for not having the minutes and notes I had in front of me the last time this issue came up. But I guess I'll say that as we look at the minutes that we approved today, there was a roll call, and I was in by Zoom, and the Zoom kept messing up, so I came. We voted on the minutes that were there, so there was really no circumstance there. On old business, there were a number of things said, which it appears that I was absent for that discussion, so, but I came in late, or actually I was absent just before that discussion. And I think it would be very interesting to know what that was. We've had some correspondence since Mr. Northrop left, but I honestly can't remember what that old business was, and it would be very helpful to have a set of minutes that summarizes. Even if it says that Katie Nolan spoke and said the weather is nice today, and Lauren Lehman said, well, it's not as nice as it was last year, and Mr. Northrop said, let's get back to the program. I mean, we can make this up, but the fact is that for anybody reading this is a totally useless waste of government resources to put down that we've spoken, but not give any indication of what we're speaking about. And if AI were to come along and do the recording of this and say, and we tell AI that we need one simple sentence on what the speaking was about, I'm sure a machine could do this. And we could read it later and see if the machine did it right. But I just simply believe that we should request a review of why we're doing this, because at this point, the way we take minutes is a huge waste of taxpayer money and does not accomplish anything to tell us what's going on.
Other member comments?
Madam Chair. I can respond and say that the code says that bodies follow Robert's rules. Robert's rules calls for action minutes. However, the code also provides that commissions can make their own rules of procedure. And so if the election commission would like to make a motion, I'm trying to think about where to put
Actually,
it.
I'm going to interrupt. I believe we did this at my second meeting, so that's been at least a year ago.
Where you made a motion to take summary minutes.
Yeah.
Can I read it? Right, so I'm in code. The election commission is a border commission under Title IV, a municipal code. And under Title IV, yes, Robert's rules applies when there aren't provisions in code. And regarding minutes, a board, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, a board and commission shall keep minutes of the board or commission proceedings, and such minutes shall record the vote of each member physically present upon every question, which is why we keep active notes. The municipality, and so that applies to all boards and commissions. The municipality has over 50 boards and commissions under Title IV. And I think it's unlikely that the municipality would concede that each board and commission has the authority to delegate that work to staff, right, to take summary minutes by hand. But that if a board or commission were to take minutes themselves and take that on, that would be a different matter. Because I think what Jamie's setting up in terms of the board's authority, the commission's authority versus the department staffing, the board or commission, I certainly agree, like the commission has authority over when they meet, they have authority that's within code, vested in them. But wearing my municipality cap, I wouldn't necessarily concede that those 50 plus boards or commissions could force the municipality to take summary minutes. I don't disagree that there's
Summary or action or like minutes.
so I'm not weighing in on.
So commissions like the planning and zoning commission, animal control advisory board, Parks and Rec commission, have actual minutes with actual short statements.
Action.
So boards and commissions, are not all of them are required to be recorded. All of them do require action minutes, and then there are specific, mostly adjudicatory, like planning and zoning, where a recording is required. So if and when it does go to an appeal, we have a record. And that record isn't the summary minutes, that record is the recording.
Madam Chair, whoever prepared these minutes worked hard. They had to listen to a recording, or maybe even worked while this was happening. And I believe we have a process where we've talked about this before. And even if it says that William Northam spoke about the subject or answered Mr. Lehman's question about, you know, what time he had tied his shoes that morning, all I'm saying is that it could very simply have been done. And frankly, it doesn't even need to say, every intervention I make here doesn't need to be written down. All I'll say is that you could even say the board had a discussion about the power of attorney and heard from the, these three statutes cited, and then had its vote. But it would be simple enough to do that. I've been a corporate secretary, and I've handled big boards. I've been Secretary of State, where we had to make sure that there was that capability. I served in a municipality in Alaska that had similar rules, and we could go back and read our assembly minutes and our advisory minutes and know what had been talked about. And literally, we were deposed on a number of those things. And I actually have also sat on a corporate board where we did something almost even less than this. We didn't say who said anything. We just said what we did. And that was because lawyers have advised us that you possibly could be sued. You went into executive session to discuss a personnel matter, and that's all that it said. Okay, we came out and maybe changed the name of the officer of the corporation. But I think what I'm saying here is that let's not even waste our time if we're not going to follow what this board has already said is its deal. And we're not asking for you to write a book. Simply, even a record of today's meeting saying that on A through H in the workshop, we identified 4 issues that were addressed by separate motions. It helps us. That's all I'm saying. The fact that you've made huge progress in the number of rejected ballots for not signature matching is a very significant milestone that ought to be in our minutes. And I guess all I'm saying is let's be sensible about this. Jessica, I have been told while I've been serving on this board that this was very important that I get on this board. I've been thanked by people of all stripes. I've had our authority stripped. We looked at how our authority was stripped, and we're still allowed to say something. When we asked a question, we were told, no, we don't have authority to talk about this issue, and we did anyway. I guess I'll put it this way. A city is a small enough group that we can talk to each other about what's going on and remember what was talked about. And let's do it. So, Madam Chair, my motion would be very simple. One would be to state that it is the operating procedure of this commission to have minutes that explain what was discussed and try to succinctly summarize differing points of view if there were differing points of view.
So I heard that as a motion. We'll need a second so we can discuss it.
I agree with that. I'll second it.
Would you care to have a little discussion on it?
Well, I served on another municipal commission. Actually, I've served in several. So the Public Safety and the Anchorage Historic Preservation Commission. They probably, well, to say they represent the extremes is not quite right. This type of minutes is not totally useless, but it's not as useful as it could be. And I know I've taken minutes and been responsible for it. On the Historic Preservation Commission, we had a staff person that, I don't know, it was, it probably was a Zoom or Teams call, and maybe that might have been transcribed by the system, and then staff probably edited, then I edited what they gave to me. But there's a way to do minutes, so it doesn't have to take a lot of time, and I think that's the reason we go down to something like this. I see the same thing with the state. It's just taking a long time to document, and we should be able to get some minutes that really provide a little bit more information without it taking a lot longer time than it took to do this. So there's probably a happy medium where we can be more useful.
Any other comment? With that, we've got a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, if I could just backtrack just a tad. I will say that there are certainly boards and commissions whose minutes include more than only action minutes. So I would defer to the department agency, to the clerk's office, and the staffing of the department.
And Madam Chair, I guess one other point here is that we, at this point, are advising on votes that are accepted and vote are rejected. The outcome of this April 1st election is not in doubt, but we've certainly all lived through elections where they are in doubt. Sometimes the Assembly seeks our advice on legislation before they make code. And sometimes the advice and the deliberations of this commission may essentially amount to legislative intent. And when I say essentially, it's not the debate at the Assembly, but it's the question of what were they thinking when we proposed X or Y. I suppose in that case you have a recording, but in a contest of any kind, who can afford to go listen to hours and hours of recording without any keywords to even know if something was discussed on this? And so for that reason, I would urge support of the motion, because in order for us to do our fiduciary duty and for the city to be able to know maybe what was behind a policy later, it would be helpful. And I will just add one other thing. I've tried in my time on this commission to not make conflicting votes or recommendations. I was very clear today that if the government makes a mistake, I would vote in favor of the voter. If the voter makes a mistake, I usually would vote to reject. And we have set several different kinds of precedents in the many hours we've sat together in this room as people working through a problem. And having minutes to know, why did we reject the power of attorney except for one, or why did we, do that? Another is an important thing to do for even us to be consistent, because if we're not consistent, that opens the city up to a lawsuit as well. So for all those reasons, I think it's important, and I can think of ways that having minutes will hoist us on a petard every once in a while, but fine. Sunshine is the best antiseptic, and this is part of sunshine.
Madam Clerk, did you happen to make a note of whatever that motion, or synopsis of the motion?
The operating procedure of the Election Commission to succinctly summarize points of view if they're differing as minutes of the commission.
Mr. Treadwell, anything to add to that?
I believe the motion that was just read was, I think, got it down.
Just if I may, I'm loath to vote against the advice of the commission's attorney. Do I hear you saying that maybe we can force the staff to flesh out these? Did you change your mind?
I guess when it comes down to it, in terms of who has the authority to decide how boards or commissions are staffed, it depends on the department and department resources, and I think that decision's made by the department, right? Because they have the budget, they have the staff time. And so I think the board or commission makes that request, but I think the authority lies with the department.
Madam Clerk, may I ask you about, and maybe you're not day-to-day here, anymore, but do you have any comments on staff time spent filtering out the minutes?
What I would say is that there is a short window of time where an election can be contested. And then 30 days after the election, everything is shred. So in the event we were to have to go to court, we would have to do a transcript anyways, where we would hire a court reporter to create a transcript of the minutes. And so the minutes that we create are not going to go to court at all. They're just simply going to be posted on the website along with the recording of the meeting. So you could listen to the meeting and hear the details, or you could read the minutes and get the gist of what was done. I have been a clerk in communities that have done summary minutes, and I have I understand the policy of Anchorage is to do action minutes, and because of the possibility of landing yourself in court for not putting words into someone's mouth, but misunderstanding what a commissioner was trying to say, or putting bias in the minutes is there. Additionally, when you have more conversation in the minutes, and it does become a record, it does open you up for lawsuits for somebody who objected to something that was honestly said in the minutes, in the meeting, and was put into the minutes. It opens the commission up to a lawsuit based on something that could have been said that was also put in the minutes. So I am not in favor of action minutes. That's my side of the story.
You're not in favor of action minutes?
I'm not in favor of summary minutes, I'm sorry. Thanks.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I could be so bold, I know we have measures pending, but let's look at these summary, at these action minutes. It says that Katie Nolan was nominated for Election Commission Chair. Who nominated Katie Nolan? I have no idea. Lauren Lehman spoke. Was he the nominator? Was he saying that Ms. Nolan would be good? Was he saying that, what was Liz saying? Was Liz saying, well, her eligibility may be different? I have no idea what she was saying. We could go look it up, but the point is that let's suppose the issue was conflict of interest. It would be easier to find conflict of interest by a web search of that issue coming up. When we made disclosures today, were the disclosures properly done? I think that's important. We also did some things today, and I'll repeat what we said about precedent. And I'm not asking for summary minutes that are a book. I'm simply saying, what are we talking about? And I totally understand why you would not want us to suggest something illegal or something that the administrator has. And I will tell you, you joined a commission after most of this commission's power was stripped. But the one power that we have is to have discussions in the public and to hear public comment, and to have it heard or recognized, so that even the city assembly reading the things is not just hearing from a staff intermediary, but being able to read the minutes. And that's why we want the minutes. And there's actually no issue right now except for the fact that these minutes are useless. So I'm not proposing that we do anything illegal. I'm not proposing we do anything against city policy, because city policy makes it clear that we can have summary minutes. and I'm willing to work with with staff to make sure that we're minimizing the time on this. And you know, frankly, I have been in situations as a secretary where I've sometimes consulted counsel and say, can we put this discussion down in such a way as to not open us up? You know, and the answer is, if you're honest about it, yes. So we can protect ourselves here, but to protect ourselves from a lawsuit by saying we'll say nothing is anathema to me as a member of the public who wants to know what my public taxpayers are doing. Period.
Commissioner Trevor, I'm not really sure what you heard me say. Wasn't asking anybody to cross legal lines. I simply asked Jessica what her advice was.
Sure. By that, I wasn't suggesting that. I think you were making sure that we didn't cross legal lines with our advice. But thank you for asking for that advice. I appreciate it.
All right. There are no more discussion points to raise. Then I believe we have a motion on the floor with a second. And Madam Clerk, would you mind calling that roll call vote?
Sure. Member Courtney?
Would you mind saying
Sure.
saying it just one more time?
That the operating procedure of the Election Commission is to succinctly summarize points of view, if differing, as minutes of the commission.
Yes.
Mr. Treadwell? Mr. Treadwell?
Yes.
Member Lehman?
Yes.
Member Nolan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Now we get to signing, or we need to vote on the election commission, the canvassing report.
So you already did that.
We already did that.
Yep,
So
all we
now
need to do is sign, but
Sign
it's-
it. You gotta sign your name the right way.
Red pen or?
Thank you. That's okay. I'm used to it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. From there, we're going to member comments.
I think that there was one more item added, and that was to discuss comments to provide to the assembly.
Where was that?
It was my understanding that at the beginning of the meeting, we added item E, which was discussion of comments to provide to the assembly.
Thank you. All right. How is this handled? I have not done that, Andrew.
It was my understanding Mr. Treadwell wanted to talk about this, so maybe if you just have him lead you in.
Mr. Treadwell.
Madam Chair, I think we had a very constructive review today in the ballots, and the questions that I asked for further discussion might first begin with a set of questions to staff. We have the time later this year to forward recommendations to the Assembly, and the clerk will likely be reviewing with us any changes that she urges the Assembly to make in election law or in our procedure. So my list is fairly short. As we were looking at item G on voter ID, we were told that there's an ID requirement for online voter registration, which makes sense. You can't get online to do that without at least showing your ID. You can't vote without at least showing your ID to an election official sometime after you've registered. And the point was made that for the PFD or the DMV, that requirement wasn't there. There's lots of ways people apply for the PFD without ever talking to a government official or face-to-face with a government official. And so I believe that if that's not included in state voter registration, and we are relying on signatures for that as well as that, we might want to consider that issue. And that may be something you discuss with the state rather than with the municipality, but it's just an issue. Second, we had several cases where we were to reject a second ballot. And I asked the question, why do we give out a ballot when one was received? And we were told that even though we have the information within the election office of what ballots are received when they're received, the people who are giving out ballots or allowing question ballots don't have that information. And at least the suggestion might be we might be able to avoid some of these double ballots if at least the election official at the voter center says, well, we already received a ballot from you, ma'am, or we already got a cure from you, ma'am. And frankly, if somebody had done that for that person, as we learned from a couple of people who you called to cure ballots saying, I didn't even vote, I think it would be worthwhile. It would reduce the number of rejected ballots here and so forth. So anyway, that's an issue that I would just urge us to look at again. And that not only relates to category D, it also relates to category I. In the case, and this is again an issue with the state, but under category T, which we talked about, where we had a person who said that they had registered before March 2nd, but our records show March 12th. The state, somewhere I'm sure there's evidence of where that person registered. And one of my big concerns always with voter registration drives before an election is that somebody can collect them and then even selectively turn them in. And, somebody else could say, I mean, it's a place where you're potentially open to fraud. And again, this is one place where had we had that information, it might have been helpful to us. On the, Governor Lehman made the suggestion that we work with the post office for at least hand canceling ballots that are posted here on election day. We threw out 301 ballots. I'm very happy with with the progress being made here, but at the same time, that was one general issue. We also had, and that was category W. For category W1, we had 3 ballots that were rejected. One was, there were two had to, and I wrote down that we didn't hear a cure procedure for the postmark date that helps very much. The post office, you did what the law required, which is go to the distributor of whatever that means go to the post office. But it may be that we just need to make it very, very clear, especially to overseas voters, that overseas votes tend to get rejected. 2/3 of the votes rejected in this election were because overseas didn't cancel them properly, and just making that aware. I don't know how we improve that cure procedure, but there's an area for that. With number X, we had one voter we rejected who had just recently had a birthday, and we might take that as a lesson to explain the 17-year-old 90-day rule, or 60 or 90-day rule that we talked about. Anyway, there was that. There was also the Hope Cottage issue, and I think just recommendation that we work with Hope Cottage on that so that a voter who might be a special needs voter wasn't rejected. In terms of the number of ballots that we rejected under Z, where a signature wasn't there, I guess there were somewhere around 40 of those. Most people, some people may think, oh, why do I have to do that, 43 of them? And I think it's important not only to explain why it's mandatory, but also explain to voters why it's necessary. The reason why a signature is necessary is because it's about the one way that we have to deduce whether or not you are you by doing mail-in ballots. And this, we are still in a giant experiment of whether mail-in ballots is the right thing to do. There are people who feel that they're not. And I'll say this is not a partisan issue. I know there's many Republican chairmen who like it. There's Republican chairmen who don't like it, and I don't know about the other party, but I guess what I'm saying is it would help with C, not only to say it's required and you have a very good ballot that gives you a checklist before you seal the ballot, but I think it's something where you explain that is necessary. On the AI business, I'm very concerned about serial people who reject it. And I think that's an issue to be aware of and to discuss. Liz, thanks very much for the statistic. The 52 people who we rejected tonight were also rejected last time. And that means there's 52 people who might at least deserve a phone call or something, if I got that right.
So that was from 23 to 24.
Okay, yeah, so 52 in two of the last elections were serial rejectees. And we've made so much progress on this. The question was asked here, and we looked, should we send a note with maybe next year's ballot or some other way to remind people voting that, if you want your ballot not to count, here are the ways that we rejected most ballots because the signature didn't match. If by some chance you rejected before, come into a voter center, okay? The next one might be we rejected a bunch of ballots because the post office didn't postmark them. Here's what you do. And I know that we're all intent on communication, but that was one that just, we can be helpful on that. So forth. Finally, on number 22, I think my notes said, Z2. Yeah, I'm sorry, Z2. There was no reference signature. That's a huge improvement. We had talked about that issue. I talked to the Lieutenant Governor. The state doesn't really care as much about its signatures with voting because it's not crucial to them. I have to say, when I spoke to the Lieutenant Governor about it, she was not even aware exactly of what the state did and how they assembled the signature. But today that number is 0, and that's a great improvement. And I just want to congratulate you, but also if there's anything further we can get back to the state about on that, it would be useful. So, Madam Chair, those were my notes from the meeting. I thought it was a very constructive meeting, and what I've said in these notes are things that staff may want to think about, and we may want to advise the Assembly or our partner at the state who does our registration for us how we might improve things. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Commissioner Ford?
No, I have
Nothing.
no further comments.
Commissioner Lehman?
Well, I don't know that I want to belabor it, but I'm still not sure that I'm a fan of mail-in voting, and it has nothing to do, Jamie, with you or your staff in delivering a mail-in election, because I think you're doing an outstanding job with a very challenging situation. I want to get more people voting and just participating in it, and I think, I have some ideas on what to do in going back to some of how we delivered elections before might be the better way to go. The other thing that does come up from time to time, quite often, I guess, is the long time it takes to deliver the results for an election. And that's a problem. And we need to do everything we can to compress that and get results. And I understand the overseas voting. I represented the military for 10 years in the Senate. I'm well aware that, and I have a son was military, and I understand the need to accommodate them, from wherever they're deployed around the world. But we need to just keep working at what we can do to reduce that time, and not just you, but the state of Alaska as well. And ranked choice voting contributes to that problem for the state elections, and I'm concerned about that as well. Anyway,
Thank you.
productive meeting.
Madam Chair, if I could, very quickly, when you called on me, I
Ready?
wasn't prepared to make comments about the assembly or about anything that Commissioner Lehman talked about. I just want to thank you for a very well carried out election under what must have been very stressful situation. So thank you very much to you and your staff for the hard work that you had to put in, maybe not even knowing you were going to have to do it. So thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Here. All right, thank you. And I do have comments and suggestions. One of my suggestions is that meeting once or twice a year is not doing anybody any good. We can't remember what happened last time. I would like to talk about the potential of, say, quarterly work sessions where we look at different ideas. One of the things I tried to talk to a previous person about was advertising. The advertising that we're doing is not effective, but it's because the community doesn't do advertising. You need an advertising person to understand how to reach people. I would like to see us have a complete work session devoted to that. Education, including things like the 90-day rule. How many of us know, how many people out there know that we should be talking to 17-year-olds and teach them this 90-day rule? There are ways we can reach them. We could spend a work session looking at mail-in voting improvements. We could look at a work session talking about Title 28 and how we could improve it to meet today's challenges. There are a number of things like that. I would like to see if there's a similar feeling on the rest of the board that possibly quarterly work sessions would be something that would be useful for us. Are there any thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. It seems like the little history I have on with the commission is that you really only meet when you have to. And I know that Commissioner Lehman, had mentioned during the last meeting that we could possibly have a May work session on potential changes to Title 28. Anything that you may be thinking about, Madam Clerk, or your staff may be thinking about, but we didn't follow up on that. So I agree with you that we could have more productive work sessions.
And any other thoughts?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if we knew, for example, on the post office issue, I happen to have a colleague who lives in Washington, D.C. that we talk several times a month, whose mother oversees all the post offices in Alaska out of Denver. You know, if you need me to call somebody I've hosted other postmasters general here in the state. If you want us to try to get somebody to work or shop with us on this, that you feel you're not getting an answer, let us ring some bells for you, shake around some pages for you. Likewise with the state of Alaska. I know you have a professional working relationship with the director of elections. I know I'm called often, Lauren's called often by legislators working to change state election law and so forth, and if we can be helpful on that, let us know. I also, could have asked for an executive session about the personnel matter that was here, only in that to just get reassurance, and I accept your reassurance that there was nothing in whatever that personnel matter was, and that affected the way elections were run or our safeguards or whatever. But rather than being told we have that this was none of our business, I would just say it is our business, but we're also your advocate. The reason why I joined this is because there is a big question about trust in running elections in this country and even in this town. And I have not heard anything today that would cause me to tell any voter that they can't trust what's happening in their system. And we're here to back you up. So just use this, I think, is the point. And I just want to reiterate what Ann said to being handed an election when you just become city clerk and you've got to change the assembly members and coming and going and everything else like that. Thank you for what you did to step in.
Thank you, Mr. Treadwell. Mr. Lehman, do you have a feeling about quarterly meetings?
I will attend if we have a meaningful agenda, and if others want to, I'll come and contribute.
Thank you. The second thing I wanted to say again was thank you, repeating everybody else's comments. And I know some people have got home, but tremendous job. However, I do want to say that whoever wrote the threatening letter to the board, it was not appreciated by anyone. I don't know who actually did it, but wording should have been much nicer. You know what I'm talking about, I assume? No. The threatening letter giving us all the information that we already knew about closed meetings. So whoever wrote the letter needs a remedial class in how to win friends and influence people.
All right.
And other than that, we have no audience for audience participation. I would like to give the staff a chance to tell us anything we missed. Nothing over there, then this meeting is adjourned. Yay. Thank you, everyone.
What letter are you talking about?